Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. We are, if you're following in the booklet, page 47, number 30, mental processing. So this has a lot to do with cognitive processes and your mental processes, like basically how your mind works. So not only is it help facilitate a shift in consciousness, helps to shift over into like the intuitive mind, but it also sharpens the intellectual mind. And it's tied to the activation of the mental permanent atom, which is also known as the blue pearl or the inner eye. You know, it's good to come at the blue pearl or the inner eye from a lot of different angles, just so we start to live in a state where that is activated in a state of oneness rather than just trying to stimulate it all the time. So you could think of this as a way of like fortifying that aspect. So this helps with most mental processes and helps to regulate the mind, quiet the mind, and make our mind a little bit sharper. So with that, the blend that we're using is called Mind. So let's go ahead and pull that out. And we're going to start with the standard approach. Okay, so you have your blend. You're beginning to inhale. Your awareness is on the left-hand side of your body. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the whole left side of your body. Left side of your face and neck, your left shoulder, ribs, your left hip, down the outer ankle, or down the outer leg to the left outer ankle, I should say. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. You're still on the left side of your body. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Move your awareness to the front side of the body, the face, throat, chest, abdomen, the pelvis, down the front of the legs to the tops of your feet. Your awareness is on the right side of your body. Right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder, your right hip, down the outer leg to the right outer ankle. You're on the right side. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. The whole backside of your body. Backside of your head, back of the neck, down your whole back, your hips, down the backs of your legs to your heels. And then pause and be still. Just pause and be still. Just let that incubate for a moment. Okay, so that is the standard approach. That's something that can be done daily, be integrated into other processes or areas of healing that you're doing currently. Or it could be part of what you would call an Auric stack, where you take other Auric programs and stack them together and do those on a daily basis for a healing process. But now we're going into the advanced approach, which is something you might only do once or twice a week. It takes a little bit for your energy body to process this. So, you do it and then you step back and you let things happen for a little bit. And then you do it again. Right? So we're starting with the advanced approach. Your awareness is on the left side of the body, left side of the face and neck, the left shoulder, ribs, hip, down the outer leg to the left outer ankle. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Now you're doing the back side of the body, the whole back of the head and neck, your whole back, your hips, down the backs of the legs to the heels. The right side of your body. Your awareness is on the whole right side. Right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder, all the way down the side of your leg to the right outer ankle. The front side of the body. Your awareness is on the whole front side. Your face and throat, your chest, abdomen, down the fronts of your legs to the tops of your feet. And then just pause and be still. Let's begin inhaling with your awareness on your knees, either your whole knee or the back of your knee. Your awareness is on the ankles. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the ankles. And then the soles of your feet. Your awareness is on the soles of your feet. Just pause and be still. Okay, we're going back to the 4 quadrants, left side of your body, left side of your face and neck, your left shoulder, ribs, your left hip, down the outer leg to the left outer ankle. You're on the left side of your body. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. The front side of your body, the whole front side. Awareness is on the front side of the body, down the whole front side. The right side of your body, the whole right side. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And the back side of the body, the whole back side. Back of the head, the back, the hips, all the way down to the heels. Your awareness is on the whole back side of the body. And then pause and be still. Let go and be still. You're just being still. Begin inhaling. Your awareness is on the brain. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the brain. Your awareness is on the spine. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the spine. Your awareness is on the brain and spine, both at the same time. the brain and soles of your feet. As you inhale, move your awareness up above your ankles. As you exhale, move your awareness down into the earth. just pause and be still. How'd that do for you? Me just sleeping. Notice your body, your emotions, your thoughts. And then let's go ahead and share.
You can unmute yourself, you can type into the chat. I'll make it easy so you can even type into the group chat. But also you'll be able to message over to Plant Prana Oils or to Apothecary Geek. And let's just keep it to our programming shares and questions right now. And then we'll do the regular Q&A and after this. Just until anybody else jumps in, I wanted to share when we did the brain soles of the feet, it was like I went somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like I was gone forever. And then I came back and it was like you kept us on the brains and souls for a while, even after I came back. And I was like, whoa. And then when we moved them up, it I don't know, it was a different kind of energy. It felt like moving. And so that was very interesting.
Yeah, I used to use this blend for meditation, like a long time ago. Like it's, I don't know, it's quite nice.
Well, we just have one share right now, or we have a couple shares in chat. So if you guys want to go ahead and raise your hand right now for the regular Q&A, you can. So we'll do these shares here in the chat, and then we'll go into the regular Q&A. Someone shared, I felt my brain kicked into overdrive. And another said, yeah, that was a deep one. Seemed like I was swimming in a purple and gold portal.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. You know, like anytime you see violet, your body's raising vibration, or at least an area of the body. And then gold is spiritual energy that's being physicalized. And so I could easily see that happening, especially violet in the mind, like the mental processes. But it could also impact your physiology. Because if you think about it, like your mind is also tied to your instinctive responses, and your mind is also tied to emotions and your emotional processing. Like all of this makes up what we would call the mind. And so, yeah, it regulates a lot more than just your thinking. A lot of what our thinking is just the endocrine system functioning through the nervous system or through the brain. So in theory, this actually even kind of begins to impact the endocrine system and communication between the glands, but also our reaction. And if you look at the idea of materialization or the materialization process, especially when you're looking at the materialization of light, there is these like four aspects. And there's the initial interaction or the attraction of light, or the light starting to enter in the system. And a lot of times, if you break it down to your physiology, this is tied to immune function. And then we still have endocrine and nervous system, and then eventually the mind, as the component. And so you would think that then the next component would be the nervous system. But when it comes to the light, the endocrine system plays a role I mean, this is very mystical or esoteric, but at some point, you're either engaging in repetition or you're having a new spontaneous experience, right? You're allowing for something new or different to come in. And this is actually tied to how we interact with the environment and how the environment affects us. We go back to that idea that we talked about in a class earlier in the year where we talked about resonance. How does how does you know how does our energy body affect the environment, and how are we affected by the environment? And this is in certain circles when they talk about these four aspects of the light, you would call that like magnetic or magnetism. In Buddhist practices, you would refer to this as sound, the sound, which is not like your words, but it's like the frequency that is either in the environment or within you that affects. And so, if you really break it down, again, like I said, this is kind of a mystical or esoteric way of looking at this, but this particular process is tied to that. Is that if you boiled it down, like if you're sitting there watching the light, are you letting the light in, or are you going to the light, bending and manipulating it so that it fits in your little repetition? You're maintaining the repetition. So if the endocrine system is inflexible, the tendency is to bend the light to fit the repetition of the intellect. So the manifestation of this is, think about like interactions you've had with people where you maybe give them a piece of information or you tell them something, and the only thing that they listen to or hear is the thing that validates the thing that they already know. Like they seek out things that only validate what I already know. Like that's what it is. And, in the extreme, I've talked about this before where I had a boss that basically said, if you don't agree with me, it's because you're not smart, right? It's not that you have a different opinion or a different perspective, or maybe are in the process of learning something, but it's like, if you don't fit into my repetition, then it's because you don't get it because you're not fitting into this repetition. And so, you know, that whole idea of the intellect is we seek out things that validate things we already know, not new experiences, not new pieces of information, not seeking out truth. Like, I think this about this person, I think this about this situation. And on the flip side, if you watch people in the middle of an argument, instead of saying, like, I'm presenting my information and maybe I need to present it better, it's like, I'm going to get a bunch of people on my side and we're going to keep saying the same thing over and over again, right? That is still another version of the intellect. And I'm going to bend and manipulate the light so that I don't have to move or shift. And if you look at the idea of the materialization process, it is a process. It is, you're looking at the movement of something, a light, essence. And so first you're bringing something in, and then you're generating a kind of inertia or movement that needs to be maintained. And then eventually it gets integrated. And then there's kind of a settling or a shift in consciousness or shift in the mind. And we laid that out in the last materialization class. We didn't lay out the last part, but we did the first three, which are the hardest to get. And so that second part about being able to maintain something, you could call it could call it inertia, you could call it sound, you could call it resonance, you could call it a correspondence, right? You know, correspondence, because if you're distracted, the tendency is to get pulled away from materializing the light based on our past experiences. But if you're focused and you're really trying to bring in light or truth or like an angel or something, the correspondence is the angel or the light. And like that becomes the focal point. And so the materialization process is basically the manifestation of light, or you could even say on a deeper level, it's the manifestation of divine order. Like when people talk about divine order, they throw that idea around like it's just this thing. Divine order is a four-part system. Like it's four pieces that bring things into materialization. And so this idea of, you know, just even working the mind in this aspect, it has that impact on being able to allow the light in, allowing the truth in. And really, what you're also saying is you're allowing your true nature, you're allowing the soul in. Why do we have to wake up and realize ourself, our true nature or ourself is because due to intellect, we turn away from ourselves. We turn away from our true self. We do it because of the mechanics of intellect, but then, you know, we have to rediscover ourselves. It's the rabbit hiding the Easter eggs at Easter. You got to find that egg. You got to find the soul. You got to find your true nature. Yeah, we could go on and on about that, but I don't know. I always find it interesting.
Well, and I appreciate you like talking more about it because I mean, maybe because we just did mind as well, but like it feels more clear, like like even just when you were talking about like having the angels as that focal point, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can feel it. Like, you know, the energy behind it is like it gives it more clarity, allows the light to come in, and also not force it. Like
Right.
you can't manipulate that too.
Right.
Like if you're going directed,
Right.
it's not like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's coming together.
Yeah.
Someone is wondering though, what is in this blend? This mind.
Oh, I'll have to look up. It's from so long ago. It's actually a very old blend. Um, I mean, not crazy old, but I mean, I probably made it 8 years ago, maybe. Let's see. Poplar balsam, Swazi, Ami Visnaga, Valerian, Neroli, Cistus, and Champaka. Yeah, it's quite an interesting blend, actually. Champaka.
I know.
So, that's delicious.
All right, guys, that will complete our week 30. And next week is the muscular system. So have your warming muscle support, also used to be called warming muscle tonic. But if you did the ARC programming oils, it is your warming muscle support oil. So that should be very nice. And what is now? All right, now we'll start our regular Q&A. You can raise your hand in the chat. You can unmute yourself. You can type into the chat. All sorts of options. Give me just a second, Lolly. I'll make it so you can actually unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead.
Hey.
Hi. Yeah, that was really nice and needed, apparently. So thank you. Okay, let's see a few things. So, new blend, travel guard. So that's nice. That's
Yeah, I thought of you because I know you're traveling here pretty quick.
So yes, I guess I need that.
Yeah.
So let's start with the quick question about that. So
Sure.
I looked at the ingredients that are on the side. It says internal as well. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
you
It
can
has
use it
mugwort,
internal. I wouldn't
even
go
though,
crazy. It has mugwort, but it's so little that it's okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there, but is there reason to use it internal or mostly inhalations and
I
topically?
would say mostly internal and topically, but the other thing that you can use it for is also for like gum health and like, any sort of gum issue, tooth issue. The idea would be that, what we're doing is we're putting together like a little, I don't know, like you could call it a travel kit or like your everyday kit. Like if you just had like, I'm trying to keep it to about 12 oils, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's probably going to be 15, but like,
Yeah, sounds like me.
try
Yeah.
trying to keep it to 12 because I've tried to make it before and it always ended up at like 40 or 50.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to like go, okay, if I took and made a blend that did a bunch of different things for like respiratory and just like things that I don't know are similar, and you're like, okay, I'm going to be traveling, I can only take a couple oils. What am I going to take? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that would be like anything respiratory, including infection, anything like kind of gum oriented. I also find it to be calming and soothing. And I didn't really put this in mind when I was making that because, like when I make it, I play with it for a while before I start talking to you guys about it. And I found it like I laugh because it's like just didn't dawn on me.
Mm.
But it's very activating to the heart. Like it's very activating to the heart. And I'm like, huh, didn't see that one coming. I was thinking very clinical, like, okay, I'm in the trenches. Like, okay, what happens if, I'm around sick people and I want to prevent something airborne? Or what happens if maybe I start to feel like I'm getting the sniffles or I got exposed to something? Or, what happens if like, okay, I got a little bit sick and I'm trying to treat it and I'm, flying or driving or, out and about and, you know, um, all these things. And then the idea of being able to use it on the gums or as a gargle or something like that. Or it's like, so many times we have like single things that we can do, but if we're trying to have like a handful of things that covers a lot of ground, it might not be like if somebody had bronchitis or something, it might not be the best thing, but it definitely could be a thing you could use.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were like going, okay, bronchitis, if I'm home and I'm surrounded by my oils, there's things I could probably do better. But
Yeah.
if you're on the road, ugh, you would have to be traveling with a lot of oils to be able to treat that really well. My travel thing is like, like I said, like 40 or 50 oils, and I'm like, and, rarely do I tap into that 40 or 50 oils. I usually pull one or two out. And what if I tried to whittle this down to like 12? And
Yeah.
so that's my goal. And there's going to be some single oils that are still in there, like
Yeah.
helichrysum, still going to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Bay laurel probably will be like still in there. Um, Cinnamon will be in there, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to have like I'm almost done with tweaking the one for the digestive issues,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, between digestive issues and that, and maybe aches and pains and, a couple other things, I think we can make it so that, a kid of like 12 can cover a lot of ground.
Okay, I like that because yeah, that's one of my things, and that's why I
Yeah.
always
Oh, yeah.
wait until the last minute to pack because I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but then okay, so if I'm looking at, I mean, yes, I'll have a bunch of oils with me, but let's say in a practical way, travel guard would be my. I can put it in my. I can fly with that, so then whatever happens, like I can take a
Yep.
couple of drops before, and then I can have it with me
Pull it
all the
out, smell it
time.
on the plane, put
Yeah.
a few drops on the chest, kind of anything goes. Like
Okay.
I was even thinking like you know, um, playing with the idea of like you know how you travel, like if I feel like I might be exposed to something, you know, you could put a couple drops in your hands and just like
Mm-hmm.
rub it like that, or get a little bit of the, I always call it waterless soap, but what it
Hand
hand
sanitizer.
Yeah,
sanitizer. Yeah, and then, you know, put a couple drops in and just
yeah,
rub it like that, you know, just any version of that, that again, it's trying to cover a lot of ground, and you could be a lot more specific and have something maybe that's a bit better, but not as versatile. And
yeah.
so
And
here
I
I was
like that.
trying to
Yeah.
do versatility, like
Okay.
just, you know,
Which,
like if you had a little kit that you just, you know, I always have a shoulder bag. It's like, what's going to be my shoulder bag kit? What's going to be
mm-hmm.
the thing I carry on the plane? What's
Yeah.
when I
And
jump in the car and drive for 5 hours, or when I go see, you know, my family or something, what am
mm-hmm.
I gonna, you know, what am I gonna throw at Uncle Bob? I gotta have 12 things to like.
Yeah. So no, yeah, no, I love it. And then it's good even if I'm like out and about the whole day, I have that,
You're
and
right,
then I can go back and treat
right,
more if
exactly.
needed. But then, so would you take it even like before traveling, or would you take it like internally as a preventative type of a thing?
Honestly, I think sustained inhalation and a little bit of like topical, like on the chest or on the wrist.
So that's why I was going to clarify, because earlier you
Yes.
said internal and I think you meant to say inhalation.
And that's
Yeah,
what I thought.
If
Yeah.
you can do it internal, but I would say the internal part would be like if you were sick. Like
Uh,
if you're not sick and it's just all those other things, then inhalation and like a few drops on the wrist or on the
okay.
chest is plenty.
Okay.
But
Thank you. I
like
wanted to
if
clarify
like
the same. So yeah. Okay.
yeah, but like then if you're like traveling and you got like some cold or flu or something in the lungs or something, and you're like, oh, I'm sick, you could start taking drops internally. But I would say it's not, internal doesn't have to be the first choice. I would say it's
Yeah.
much later down the line.
And
Yeah.
then if we're looking at blends for a second, looking at something like what is it, Monada complex, which has a lot of things. So would you go to that more if you really feel
That's
sick?
going to be a little bit stronger of an antiviral. Yeah,
Right.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely even Monarda by itself, very
yeah.
antiviral. Immune support, Monarda complex, Melissa, and then, you know, I am working on a thing about reducing like viral loads in the body. And the idea being that, you know, yes, when you're out and about and exposed, you know, it would help with that. But also sometimes we just have like maybe we might not have a cold or flu, but some of our aches and pains, sometimes they're viral. You know,
Mhm.
it's about just lowering the viral activity in the body and calming that down, because sometimes even the agitation in the body can be like due to viruses and things. And so the idea originally started in treating like very serious viral issues like hepatitis B and C, you know, things like that, things that were like really hardcore viral issues. But it's like you can take that same idea and make something that is just like a very good general viral load reducer, you know, to like calm things down. And you know, we have our Monarda and we have our Melissa and you know Monarda complex, and immune support's pretty antiviral. But this would be almost like a way, not necessarily like fighting off like acute infection or contagious conditions, but like the susceptibility of the body to viral infections in general. And if there's active viruses that aren't necessarily like COVID or something like this, where you just have these viruses that, you know, sometimes we don't even know the names of them, but they're there, you know,
Mhm.
then the ability to reduce those. And so, like on the flip side of talking about that. We do things to treat like contagious diseases and we, treat something when it's happening. But what if we just want to increase and improve our immune system for the sake of just having like better immunity, like when we're exposed to things, and say you're treating like something like viruses in the body or even things like cancers and things like that. Like how can we elevate function in the immune system? Like how can we strengthen the immune system rather than just always trying to treat like a symptom oriented,
Mhm.
approach? And you know there's a time and a place for symptom oriented. Like when infectious diseases are a prime example of that. COVID, like, yeah, we want to boost our immunity, but we also don't want to get COVID. Like, like I'm talking about back in the day. Now,
Mhm.
COVID is really calmed down to be just, like a flu, like it was, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so of course we do things for prevention and preventing contagious conditions and everything. But when you step back, you're like, okay, but if I look at my immune system, how much gas do I have in the gas tank?
Mhm.
Like, do I have enough to fight off all kinds of things, or am I really having to, fuel things up to have these specific fights from time to time? And so it's almost like the approach would be like a general idea of being able to boost the immune function. And so, we just did that tuning into the divine calm, which is a deeper vagal tone kind of topic. And we put it on the books, I think, didn't we? The tuning the divine calm 3. Yes.
Yes, yes, I
So
did.
it's going to be a free class, but we're going after inflammation and like boosting your immunity in ways that is different than just keep away COVID, keep away the environment, keep away like strengthening the immune system so that your body can do a lot more repair work and a lot more either defending itself or also even regulating itself, because autoimmune issues would fall into that category. And so, I would say in the last like maybe 7 years, I probably have treated more autoimmune issues than I have in the previous 25 years. And previous 25 years, I saw way more clients than I have in the last 7. And so, you know, I was seeing like 60 to 70 patients a week for a long time. And, now I'm nowhere near that, you know. So how do we build up these areas and how do we regulate these areas and yeah, like so
Yeah.
we're going to be going after all that stuff.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely get the blend and I like the idea. Now I get a better understanding. So thank you. And then I have one of them symptom question. So I have this thing going on with it's like an ongoing thing. It was fine for a while, but now it came back. So it's the left shoulder blade. It's been going for like a week now. It started with the neck. I could barely even move the neck. Even Friday, like I couldn't, it's the left side. I could barely move it to the left. Now
Yeah,
it's
hard
better.
time turning it the same way.
I can turn it to the right and to the left. I can turn it now better, but it's still painful.
Okay.
It's mostly now went down to the shoulder blade. And I tried, pain stuff. And I also tried what you told me to do for the finger, which is lemongrass body tonic, and then follow that with like lotion with marjoram, like treating it as a fascia type
Mhm.
of a thing. But it's still there. Like I don't know what's
Yeah, that sounds like a trigger point got activated, and it's in um, there's a muscle called the levator scapula, and so it comes from like the base of the skull, and it comes down, and then it attaches to the shoulder blade, and there's a couple things like if it hurt more when you turn to the opposite direction, it would be a different muscle. But when it hurts when you turn to the same
That's it.
side,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. That's the levator scapula. And so uh, sometimes that happens in hot weather, not because of the heat, but because they can get more activated when cool air is blowing on that area.
Which is what I
Like
was
it's,
afraid might have happened because it was like, yeah, like
yeah.
AC or yeah.
Well, I mean, not just being in an air conditioned room, but like if you're under the vent or,
Mm-hmm.
the cool air is coming in, if you already have a problem there, it will activate the trigger point. And so, you know, it's like you can still leave the air conditioning on. It's just try not to be under vents or anything like that. Uh,
Yeah.
I would use vetiver and go across the base of the skull there, and then rub the vetiver like on that point, where
Mm-hmm.
your neck and shoulder kind of come together, and
Yeah.
then even roll it kind of back to the shoulder blade. Um, that can be helpful, but I would say also things that would unwind like a trigger point like that. Are you having any other trigger point issues or areas in your body that you're aware of?
Mhm. Don't think so. I mean, I have my
Okay.
lower back
No,
pain, but
no
I think
teeth
that's
grinding, nothing,
oh,
nothing like that.
that's a given. I mean, I have my TMJ,
Right.
but
Okay.
yeah, but that's been yeah, so that's like an ongoing thing. It hasn't gotten worse, just the one area that's been an issue.
Okay. So, and then try like maybe rotating like the nerve help and like I would probably rotate nerve help and like pain soothe or something like that.
Yeah, I've
But
been doing
the
before.
other thing that I might throw at that is um bay laurel neat. Like, just a neat
Okay.
application on it, like up in that
Mm-hmm.
area. And if you had a little bit of wintergreen, you can mix the bay laurel and the wintergreen together and rub it on that area.
I
That
have.
might be actually quite beneficial as well. Like that will usually calm things down. Then do you remember in the kit from the Radiant Mind, there was the body tension blend?
Oh yes, I've been using
Yeah.
that
Inhale that
inhalation.
on the organs of blood purification.
Yeah.
Just inhale that a lot. It will calm down some of the armoring in the somatic part of the nervous system. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Because I've been trying so many different things. And then for the wintergreen, I don't have wintergreen by itself.
Yeah,
I have it
that's
in
okay. Then just
blends
use bay laurel. That's fine.
because peppermint is not going to give me the same thing.
Um, the reason why to use wintergreen is like peppermint's kind of a good pain reliever and it's good anti-inflammatory and it is a bit of an antispasmodic, but wintergreen has a much stronger effect on like very chronic or deeply contracted muscles, like chronic spasms. And you've had this problem for a while, even though it
Hmm.
fluctuates, it's been there a while.
Yeah.
And so, if you don't get wintergreen and you're wanting to get something, there's a blend. It's a little bit misleading because like I made it for somebody, but there's a blend called anti-sclerotic.
Okay.
And it's for like when tissues harden and things like that, but it's a very good antispasmodic and it's a very good thing for like trigger points and arthritic conditions and things like that. And in a situation like that, instead of going with it's because it's like bay laurel and wintergreen and
Hmm.
like eucalyptus citrodora and it's things to reduce inflammation, but also address that chronic like spasm in the area. Um, uh, you might want to do that instead. Like I
Okay.
would rotate that. If you had that, that would be ideal. And I'd rotate it with the nerve help and that.
Okay.
But that's why I was saying put bay laurel on it
Mm-hmm.
because like bay laurel, it's good for lymphatic movement. It's good for a lot of things. And so in this area, um, just always treating it as a spasm isn't always, we want to take into effect like the chronic nature of it, the trigger point aspect, which also means there's some sort of lymphatic issue and you have an old injury and there's other areas that are contributing, there's all these things.
Yeah.
And so and you're getting ready to travel, you know.
Yeah.
And so stress levels are going up. So we want to like keep the body in a calmer state and everything. Like, when do you travel, by the way? Like, it's a few weeks away, isn't it?
It's already, it's 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting closer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And always like it tends to be that I want to start planning ahead of time, and each time it ends up being the last minute. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's what we do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, but so, and thank you, because then it tends to be a thing that comes back, especially like flights and all of that.
Yeah.
This area is a
Yeah.
tricky
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
get this, I'll do all these things. Thank you. Because I try paying stuff that makes sense to me, but sometimes, well, a lot of times I tend to miss something.
Yeah. I mean, that muscle is a very hard muscle to treat for one. Like whiplash is usually the sternocleidomastoid, but the second thing is usually the levator scapula. And they each have their things that trigger them and make them worse. And cold weather it will get bad, but in hot
Mhm.
weather, when you're like near vents, is usually when that thing can go nuts. And so
Mhm.
just like, just try to be aware of like, oh, I'm not under a vent.
Yeah.
You could be in a cool room. That doesn't
Hmm.
matter. It's about the air blowing right on like the back of the neck or the shoulders,
Hmm.
you know.
Okay, thank you. And
I
then,
had this one client one time where, she worked in a cubicle and she was right under the vent and like, when they'd really start cranking the air conditioner, um her neck would
hmm,
throw a
yeah,
fit. And so I was like, I know this sounds ridiculous, but take a big giant scarf, like,
that's what I do.
and,
Yeah, I walk around with
scarf
this.
up.
Hmm.
And, you can still be cool, but you got to keep the air from hitting the neck.
Hmm.
And the other thing is like when you're doing things, you want to, how like sometimes like your desk is up or
Yes,
you're on the
yes.
computer, it's like it's up and then your neck is forward.
Yeah.
That will make it really bad as well. So,
Hmm.
try to like keep your arms like, even if your desk is up, like try to relax them so that you're not like this.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
try to just relax back and it's not gonna fix it, but it will reduce the aggravation.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then for the blend, if I do that, then doing that, what, as a body tonic or as
I would
an
do it as an
ointment?
ointment. Do it as an
Eh,
ointment.
As an
Yeah.
ointment?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I,
Okay.
I use it and I love it that way.
Okay. So, oh, well, then basically I'll ask you to do an ointment instead of, because I don't really need it for inhalations, right? It would be something that you would use on
No, it's just
topically.
topical. Yeah.
Okay, then I'll
Yeah.
then I'll order as an ointment. Okay.
And I think for myself, I find that it works better as an ointment than it does neat. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's more effective. I
Okay.
mean,
Well, you made the one with sassafras, and so you're having me use that one as the
oh,
body
that's true.
tonic.
Right.
So,
I did make, like the original formula too is like if you do the body tonic, you can do that way because I have Samantha using it for like your hip and back or something, and it's the same formula, but it also has the tincture of sassafras in it. And so actually you could go either way. I forgot that I was adding sassafras to that. So either way, you
but
know.
yeah, if you
Okay.
want the ointment, just let us know.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
the body tonic, it does have sassafras, so it's like a really dark red. So I would say, you don't want to be slapping that on
Yeah.
and putting it on a white shirt or something. But
Yeah, and I have to be more mindful. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The ointment, I mean, I think I've been doing the ointment every day for like
Couple
a
months.
couple months. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so then you would use that. Okay, I understand why I would be using it, but you would also use it for anybody that has like a chronic pain type of thing. So it can
Yeah,
be
it's I mean, you could use it for pain, but like it's almost more for like what's causing the pain than treating just
okay,
the
right. Then
pain.
treating. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you're treating like arthritis, you're treating a
yeah.
trigger point, you're treating, like areas like the areas, I'm not slapping it on my whole body, but like I have injury sites that have like a ton of scar tissue
Please.
and over
Yeah.
the years I've done all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And and I get therapy on a semi-regular
Yeah.
basis. And, I just have this whole section on my side of my ribs that,
Mm-hmm.
from when I broke my back. And I've been putting it on there every day. And when I go to get my physical therapy, um, I you could just look at that section on my back and I would be like, don't touch
Mm-hmm.
me, and now the guy is really working deep on it and he's saying he can go 3 times deeper and I probably feel 20% of the pain. I've been managing that for over 30 years. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I've tried everything and I've gotten it down, but like I'd say that anti-sclerotic, um, I just never thought about using it on that section. And we started doing it, and oh man, yeah, it's knocking it out.
Okay.
And I had actually forgotten about that formula, and somebody with sclerosis had
Mm-hmm.
reached out. And so I was like, yeah, I'll make that blend again. And then once I made it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this on my calves, and it felt good on my calves. And I was like, it's feeling so good on my calves. I think I'll put it on that injury side, and it's been really, really helpful. Like really
Wow.
helpful.
Okay. And then, so what's actually in the blend? You mentioned that there's
Yeah, I
wintergreen.
can tell you real quick.
Okay.
Um, yeah, give me a minute here. It's bay laurel, wintergreen, petitgreen, eucalyptus citrodora, juniper, and peppermint. And then the body tonic has a base of sassafras tincture.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the old days, there used to be a sassafras essential oil, but it's pretty hard to work with, and it's really easy to make something toxic with it. So you really don't find the essential oil anymore. But in the old days, we used to make it with sassafras essential oil as well.
Mm-hmm.
But a tincture is really easy to work with. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
And then go ahead, Robert, then Sarah.
Hey,
Hey Greg. Uh, so I was eating something yesterday and I bit down and there was a hard piece of something in the food. I bit down on it and I have this one tooth that I cracked decades ago. And so it made the pain go up significantly. And last night I had quite a difficulty sleeping. So I went into the office and found my cypress and put some on it. And I wasn't sure that I could find clove, but I put
Yeah.
the cypress helped. But when should I use clove versus cypress for something like tooth pain?
Clove as often as you can put it on it.
Okay.
Like I would go, like for me, I just put a few drops on my fingertip and then I rub it on the area. But you might want to do like soak Q-tip, the
Okay.
end of Q-tip, and then rub it all over the area. I mean, it does burn a little bit, but it does take the pain away. It reduces inflammation in the nerve, and if there's any sort of infection, it does help to reduce the infection and it helps to prevent infection. And so, I mean, clove is like an old school thing in dentistry. I mean, they used to use it. And even like I think about 5, 10 years ago, they were talking about making a form of anesthesia in France just from like refining aspects of clove oil. And so it's very pain relieving, like especially for teeth and gums. And so, I mean, I would go nuts with it. I would keep it on there until everything calmed down. Every
It,
once in a while, like if it's a little too potent for you or something, you can mix it with a little cypress, or the other one I like to kind of mix it with sometimes for like this particular issue is tea tree. Like mix a little tea tree in, and then it makes it easier for the not quite the burning, but it still gets in there and does the job. Yeah.
I'm happy to say that it took about 20 minutes after I put the cypress on and I was able to go to sleep. And the pain has been mostly gone today. Uh,
Oh, with just with
but
Cypress? That's amazing. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
so I did find my one bottle of clove today and I have it handy and I may use it tonight just to make sure I sleep well.
If you're doing that good with Cypress, I would maybe just do Cypress and
Okay.
you could do tea tree and another one that you could throw in the mix is myrrh and kind of uh how do you say a dark horse or a quiet one in the mix is fennel. You could throw fennel. Like fennel, I don't really think of fennel as like treating like a cracked tooth or something, but just for like oral hygiene and things, like fennel could be thrown in the mix.
Yeah, I don't think I re-cracked the tooth because
So
the
you
pain
just like
levels,
irritated it.
yeah, like
Yeah,
greatly irritated it.
yeah,
And so I think that's helped a lot. And like you said, it's more about calming that nerve and getting it to just relax a bit and
right,
not get into the pain loop.
right.
So, okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah.
And go ahead, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Let's get you unmuted. There we go.
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. Hi, Greg. Thank you so much for taking my question.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I posted in the chat my question. I have been trying to rent a home for a couple of months,
Hmm.
and I'm seeking guidance kind of on how I feel very blocked in making this decision. But
Okay.
while I was working on it and praying for the house, a woman like drove past and said that she'd been looking for it. And while I really appreciate her, she just comes with kind of a little more risk for the home. Her name is Wendy Cortez. And the other piece is the home is in Denver and I live in Austin. So I'm trying to navigate this and figure out if I should be
So
selling the
you're
home.
trying to rent your house. You're not trying to find
Correct.
a house to rent. You're trying to rent a property
Yes,
that
sorry.
you have.
Yes, rent a
Okay.
property. Yeah. So deciding if I should rent to her or if I should be selling the home and kind of like getting rid of an anchor that doesn't serve me anymore.
And you're in Austin and the house is somewhere in
In
Colorado,
Denver. Yes.
in
Yeah.
Denver.
Thank you.
How long have you had the property?
I've had the property 4 years
Hmm.
and I had tenants who were there 2 years who just moved out or like who
Okay.
moved out in May.
Well, I mean, like there's a benefit of like keeping the property and renting it out, and then there's the benefit of just selling it. You never know what the market's going to do. Basic
Yeah.
basic chakra wise, like I look at it over a period of time, the a little bit more money now than selling it than just like renting it out and doing whatever. But when I look at your spiritual cord, much bigger when it comes to just selling it and getting out of it. Like you said,
Thank you.
probably quality of life, stress. You never know what kind of tenant you're going to get. Be it that they can't pay, or maybe they damage the property, or you end up having repairs, and all those things. I mean, I think having rental properties is great, but that it's so far away, that's got to be super hard to manage.
Yes.
Unless you have like just a good handyman or something that can run over there, that's not charging you an arm and a leg or something. I would probably say sell it. If I was in your shoes, that's what I would do.
Greg, thank you so much.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And let me run to the bathroom real quick. Give me just a minute. I'll be right back.
Again. Okay. So, question. My brother has had COVID 5 times since 2020. He has it now and is about to visit us in North Carolina. What oil can I share with him to help him? Immune support is the best oil to him return to better health.
Yeah. Immune support, Monarda, Melissa. Um, and then you can use other oils like those would be your best choices, right? But things like Naoli, Ravensara, even tea tree, um, bay laurel. All of these can be helpful as well. Like when you see something like that, when he's had it so many times, I mean, he could just be exposed in a place where he gets exposed a lot or whatever, but that he's had it so many times and his body's not building up the immunity. I mean, that was actually one of the things with COVID, was that our bodies weren't building immunity like other viruses and things. And so, you want to kind of start rolling down that pathway of strengthening the immune system so that it can handle things like that. And so, um, all those oils are helpful in that area. But I would also say, like, if you wanted to, throwing some mushrooms at it, things like reishi, maitake, um, chaga, probably no on chaga. Lion's mane, no. Cordyceps would actually be probably quite good as well. Things that kind of boost up the body, and mushrooms are really good for the immune system. And so that he's, you know, had such a difficult time, you know, like I want to say, like if I look up that thing that I'm doing with reducing the viral load, Ravensara, Bay Laurel, Thyme Thuyanol, and Naoli are like the big hitters, and not quite the throwing things like Monarda or Melissa at something to go at it aggressively, but this is just like reducing the viral load, and you're strengthening your immune system as you reduce that viral load. And so you know immune support's a great one because it's got different kinds of time. It's got a bunch of different things in it. I use that one a lot. And then Melissa and Monarda, um, I take Melissa a lot, so kind of I don't even think about Melissa because I it's already in my routine. But any version of that can be helpful. The other thing I'd say, eucalyptus radiata, honorable mention, and tea tree, honorable mention, and all of that. And so
What would the application be like?
I would say a lot of inhalation. I would even probably diffuse it in the air, but I would get some of it on his body. You know, the Melissa, Ravensara, Bay Laurel, Timethuyinol, I would probably have him take internally, like a few drops a day. You could even have him do it 2 or 3 times a day. That would be helpful, but you know, yeah.
And go ahead.
Was he always prone to getting sick, or has this been just like since COVID, or?
I'll let him answer that as well, but I'll say he lives in France and always catches it when flying over the Atlantic.
Oh, yeah. Flights, yeah. Because it's international flight, so it's not just people in France and yeah, people from all over flying on that, and that's probably why. Yeah, same oils that we're talking about. Um, yeah, same oils. Yeah,
And
but that makes sense.
to
Like
answer
that.
your question, just since COVID though,
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, every time we fly, when you say almost every time we fly, there's usually at least 2 or 3 people who should be in bed because they're so sick and they're, sitting on the plane. And like, how does that not infect the whole plane? And the other thing that's floating around, it's kind of quieted down, but like a couple of months ago was there was an airborne bacterial pneumonia that was floating around. And so again, you would use all those oils, but um, because they're also antibacterial. Timethuyinol and Baylaurel really good for anything that's a broad spectrum, like bacterial, antibacterial, but also for the pneumonia component, if he does have like that, you know it's pneumonia because it's usually like deep in the lungs and they don't get better very quick. Lots of green myrtle, like lots of green myrtle, like on the chest, lots of inhalation, you know, but
Thank you. And then go ahead, Robert, then Denise.
yeah, Robert.
And back again, that reminded me, I have a client or potential client who is dealing with long COVID. I
Okay.
don't know her symptoms yet, but would it be these same oils you just talked about?
Yeah, I mean those are always good choices. I like the idea, I think some of the things are, for one, reduce the viral load. Two, like with long COVID, look at lymphatic function. And so Baylaurel still in that vein. But there's other things you can do for the lymphatic function. And then I think there was probably a lot more inflammation in the respiratory tract, but we were so focused, as a collective on the infection itself that we don't look at like the long-term effects of the inflammation and, bronchial spasms, tight diaphragm, so then we start to go into like, let's open up the bronchioles a bit, reduce inflammation. Um, Open up the diaphragm and even some of the muscles in the chest, like the intercostals and things like that. um so y- y- you know I don't think like all all long COVID is not always the same. Like there's always these like kind of variations. And I would say that there's also a component of it where the cardiovascular system kind of gets compromised a little bit. And so the idea of treating like kind of vagal tone or like arrhythmias and things in the excuse me, on the cardiovascular system, so like looking at like benzoin or neroli or melissa, lang lang, but one of them that's really good for that also is still anula. And anula is good for the lungs, it's good for the diaphragm, also good for the heart. It's also good for the adrenals. And in a way, even if there's some pain in the respiratory tract or in the chest or something like that, anula works really, really good as a kind of pain reliever in those kinds of scenarios. And so, the other thing that I would say is, I remember how we were talking about in the tuning into the divine calm, where we were talking about respiratory rhythm. You know, a lot of times we're talking about it from the point of view of, oh, the person has a short, rapid breath. They probably are having anxiety, and that starts to go down the road, like how we were talking about last weekend, like dystonia or asthenia, like where the body is just in such a stress state for a long period of time that is a byproduct of it. But part of what happens sometimes is the breath is weak. Like it might be rapid, it might be short, but it also is not like a strong breath. And, for one, like the use of hyssop, it deepens the breath, it opens up everything, but it also stimulates the medulla. That's one of the things that hyssop does. But the other thing is, whenever you want to really strengthen the breath, cinnamon or some of the stronger forms of thyme, red thyme, white thyme, cinnamon, um, thyme serpulette, maybe a little bit, spike thyme, maybe a little bit, the ones that have some heat to it, they'll strengthen the breath, because that's part of the issue is like when we get sick, the breath becomes like a bit more shallow and like it's almost like our muscles lose the ability to inhale and exhale. And so you're doing it, but it's a much, more shallow breath. And so, that's one of the things too, is you want to like strengthen that ability to take like stronger breaths. Like, yeah, you have mucus, but your lungs are pushing through it. Yeah, you have mucus, but your lungs are coughing it out. Where sometimes the breath is so weak that you have mucus and the lungs can't get rid of it. And so, I mean, I would throw different things at it. I was doing like hyssop and helichrysum just as like a starting point. And the reason why the helichrysum was if there was some sort of scar tissue, if there's some inflammation, um, you know, when people were having, this is back when we were in the middle of all the COVID stuff. The idea of the helichrysum as well was there was always the potential for blood clots. And so, that's not quite the issue like it was, but um throwing a little helichrysum is not a bad idea. The other one to throw at it too is um German chamomile. So for one, anti-inflammatory, reduces spasms in the bronchioles, can relax the diaphragm. But the thing with German chamomile is it will clean up the metabolic waste from being sick. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think some of the lung COVID is people aren't able to detoxify the lungs like they should. You know, like their lungs can only kick out so much or maybe very little. And so, you know, there's not one clear path with long COVID. I would say there's lots of variations. Really, what I would say long COVID is that it's a traumatized respiratory tract. And you kind of almost have to just start tweaking things and going, okay, where's where's the respiratory tract whiplash that happened from COVID, you know? And you start tweaking things and you'll find it. But it's not always apparent right off the bat.
Is and how do we take these oils? Are they internal or sustained inhalation?
Uh, But you could do both. Like definitely inhalation, but you know, like the cinnamon and the thyme, inhaling it's good, taking it internal is better, you know. Um, the German chamomile, you could probably get away from just inhaling it, but you might want to do a few days of, taking it internal. The other thing, most likely they probably have a pretty fried diaphragm and it's throwing off the nervous system. I mean, it usually is a whole like chain of events. And so one of the things that I was looking for when it was long COVID was are you having a little back pain that wasn't really present before? Are you having tension in your legs? Are you having numbness in your legs? Things like that. Because like if the breath gets really shallow, the tendency is the low back will tense up, but the legs will tense up too. And the tendency is that they'll tense up to the point where they start compressing the nerves. And, it's not that I then treat the legs. I go, okay, we got to really relax the diaphragm and open up the bronchial skin. Remember, like when the diaphragm gets really tight, it compresses all the spinal muscles. All the little muscles that crisscross and go down the spine. And
Okay.
so like you can even look like, okay, tell me some of your other symptoms. And if there's back pain, especially in the low back, if there's like issues like down into the legs, down into the hips that really weren't present before the COVID, their diaphragm is just probably crazy tight. And so I mean, it's not like it kind of does it. Like if the diaphragm's tight, the spinal muscles are tight. When the diaphragm relaxes, the spinal muscles relax. And so you can use that as an indicator as well. Um, the other thing that I always kind of want to look at is that sometimes in like with COVID, the sinuses became so inflamed that they became like more of a mouth breather and that they started like kind of gulping air rather than inhaling through the nose. And so, it's a weird thing. You're sick for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you come out of it and you're breathing a little bit different, and it can throw the body off. And so that idea of, how we use that one blend, aerophagy, right, which just means gulping air, but like anise, fennel, caraway, all like those kind of digestive seeds. They're very good for reducing that gulping of air and can be very good at balancing out the nervous system. Even lantana, we forget about lantana because we talked about it for the neck so much, but lantana is also used to treat things like asthma and all kinds of things. And so, you know, you might have to play around for a little bit, or, in your evaluation, if you kind of poke around, you'll kind of see, because even the mouth breathing, you can tell they're mouth breathers because you can just tell them to take long, slow, deep breaths through their nose, and it won't feel very comfortable. But a lot of times they'll, have their mouth open, like, because they're always breathing through their mouth.
Right.
And so,
Okay.
yeah,
So this really helps me to have the right questions to ask about the symptoms and what
yeah,
symptoms and how to classify them, and from there sort of pick and choose oils depending on where
right. Where
COVID
you
has
see the
stayed behind.
dysfunction. Yeah. Because it's like the respiratory tract got into a car accident. You got to figure out like what it is. And I would say also um, that, you know, with this, like people see it as a thing. They just go, I have a hard time breathing. But when you start talking about the nuances, then you can see like there's areas that are really affected and there's some areas that might not be that affected. And so, even in the asking the questions, you're kind of helping them to raise their awareness on their body, because a lot of times they just go through it and then they're just like, I can't breathe, or I'm having a hard time breathing, or I'm super fatigued. And then when you start looking at these different pieces, you know, it will it will help point out to them like the areas that aren't doing well, but it will also help point out those areas so that you can get feedback as you treat it. Because if they're not aware of it and you're treating it and you go, okay, how are you feeling? They'll go, I still can't breathe that well. Right. But some areas might have gotten better. You never know.
Right.
And
Right.
so you kind of want to just like visit like all the little different pieces of the respiratory tract and just see how they also feel about those areas.
So go into detail in the
Yeah,
respiratory tract,
yeah.
all the bits
It's
and
like you're raising
pieces.
their awareness on different parts of their body.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Because
then
like
that gives
sometimes
us,
like, we take like mouth breathing as a perfect example. You can see that they're a mouth breather, but then you ask them, are you breathing just through your mouth? A lot of times people will go, no, because before they didn't. But then after the illness, they don't really think about it, but they're doing it. But if you ask them, they'll go, no. And so that also shows like you're still wanting to increase their awareness so that they can be like a participant in themselves getting better, and they can kind of catch themselves because they might be doing things that are also contributing to it. Most likely it's just the trauma that happened, but you never know what other things they might be doing that could also be contributing to it.
okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Denise, your hand was raised. You did take it down. I didn't know if you were just being aware of time or if he maybe answered your question already.
Hey, Denise.
Might have lost her. If she shows up, I'll let you know. Somebody shared from their experience about the art program. They said, Sojourner Truth came to me during the program when you were talking about light.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that idea of light and letting the light in, and even if you think of the materialization breath or materialization process, it is like these phases or stages of light moving in, moving in or anchoring. And yeah, I don't know. I find the materialization breath fascinating.
Okay, so we have like 8 minutes, and I think you've answered people's questions. Do you want to do practice?
Yeah,
or-
let's do a little materialization breath.
Yeah.
Like so I would say we'll guide you through it. Like his up is a good one, but if you wanna go fancy, from that materialization class, we have action, inertia, and integration. I don't know that we're gonna get that far, but at least grab the action. Another one that is kind of a nice one to start with sometimes, if you have it, is poplar balsam. That's always a fancy one.
I say, let's just go ahead and jump in so we can.
What am I gonna do? Okay, so you're gonna take your bottle, and you're gonna hold it to your chest, right? And then your chin is gonna go down. You inhale through your nose, and then up, and then exhale. And then down, inhale, up, exhale, 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 down, inhale, up, exhale. Do it a few more times and then be still. Just being still. Just maintain your stillness and awareness. Okay, let's put the bottle to the chest again. And let's do 8 or 9 of the materialization breaths. Take nice, long, slow, deep breath. Hold your breath up, exhale. Do 8 or 9 more. You're just being still. You're just being still and being aware. Okay, we're going to move over to the Tuesday night prayer petition blessing for Astara. If you want to join us for about a 15-minute little process, just get some energy moving, bless people who are in need, and help bring a little bit deeper state of peace and stillness. We're posting the link, and tomorrow night we have a review, and it's the Tuning into the Divine Calm 2, right?
Mhm.
And so even if you didn't do the class, all is welcome. So join us if you'd like.